Hello and welcome to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 2, brought to you by the Ashland University Journalism and Digital Media Department. I'm Ethan Jenkins, and I'm joined by Doug Geiser, the coach of the Ashland University football team. Coach, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Good afternoon, Ethan. It's good to see you today.
Yes, you as well. So this weekend, your team celebrated the 100th homecoming game. You came out with the 26-6 win against ODU. How are you guys feeling after your third straight GMAC win?
Well, we feel really good after any win, and having 3 in a row. The confidence is sky high, and I'm just happy for the guys to get that 100th win. Nobody can ever take that away from them.
So you talk about those 3 wins. How important is it once you started 0-2? Now you're 3-0 in the next batch of games. How important is that now going into this middle section of play?
Well, it just gives confirmation to the players and the coaches about following the process and preparing every week and putting those hours in physically, mentally, emotionally, and going out and just knowing if you do that, you have the confidence and you have a chance to have success on Saturday.
So you give them to us every week. Who were the standouts from the game recognized, and then who won the game balls as well this week?
The game ball this week was A.J. Rhodes, who's also the Special Teams Player of the Week in the conference again this week. Defensive Player of the Game is Mike Shimmick. Offensive Player of the Game was left tackle Nick Walker. And Special Teams Player of the Game was Isaac Brooks, who blocked the 1 punt for a safety. Scout Team Players of the Week, Scout Team Defensive Player of the Week was Fabian Bieberger. Did a great job at defensive tackle. The Scout Team Offensive Players were Colin Ivey and Duron Travis. And the Special Team Scout Team Player of the Week was Owen Denny.
So you talked about A.J. Rhodes, his second GMAC Player of the Week this season, of course getting 15 points on Saturday. His consistency has been a pretty good key to your success of your team so far this year.
Yep, it's actually 16 points because he had the PAT on the
Yeah.
one touchdown too. It has been huge. It has been huge, just having peace of mind, knowing if a drive stalls inside the 25 that there's a really good chance we're going to get 3 points out of it. And as long as you end every drive with a positive kick, that's usually a pretty good thing.
And then going from one area of special teams to another, of course, you had 2 safeties in the end zone. You mentioned it was something that the team struggled with early in the season. Now, how did that help you keep that momentum Saturday, and how do you feel confident in that group going forward?
We had noticed coming into the game that they had struggled with that operation and that team, and Coach Orsini did a great job coming up with a couple different schemes, and the apprehension and whatnot forced them to have a high snap on the first one. The second one, we got a clean block. And anytime you can score on special teams, that's a huge, huge momentum change. And that was a great job of being able for us to establish positivity throughout the first half and keep the pressure on them, and it ultimately helped us.
And now moving over to the defensive side of things, we saw Jack Talkington get hurt 2 weeks ago, but it was Ben Holzapfel with 2 interceptions. It's the first time a defensive player has done that since 2021. How does he help your defense, and kind of give me some information on the rise of him rising up to the occasion on Saturday?
Ben, he hasn't come out of nowhere. He had a great freshman year last year backing up Jackson Myers. That was the only thing, though. Jackson Myers was the best defensive player in the league, so you didn't get a chance to see Ben very much. He had a tremendous bowl game last year, and he really great jumping off point for this year, and he's been a rock in the middle. He calls the defense, gets everybody lined up right, and he does a tremendous job, especially against the run, and he expanded that to being doing very well against the pass this past week.
And at halftime of the game against ODU, you guys were shutting them out. What were some things you said to your team to make sure they kept their foot on the pedal in the halftime locker room?
I challenged them. I said our next step in growth as a team is you got to learn how to finish off an opponent. Don't let them live. Don't give them hope. In the third and fourth quarter. And I thought the guys did a great job coming out and keeping the pedal to the metal.
And in that game against ODU, it seems like you guys found a rhythm really between the passing and running game. How do you continue to make sure that happens, specifically next week against Findlay as well?
Yeah, Findlay's a very talented defense. They're very good against the run and tremendous against the pass. So we're going to be tested. Our balance is going to be tested, and any offense that does well is usually balanced. And so the rise of the offensive line and their continued growth has really helped that run game. The three-headed monster at running back is really starting to get in sync with them, and having Trevor at quarterback and with the way he's able to touch any part of the field with the throws, it's exciting to see where they can go here in the second half of the season.
And now you guys are on the win streak here within GMAC play, but the gauntlet isn't over yet. So how do you make sure that you mix in that offensive attack due to those teams coming up down the stretch?
Well, I mean, Findlay's a team. They're probably the best offensive team in the league, and you're going to have to score to beat them. Man, it sounds like a cliche, but you're going to have to score repeatedly and score a lot to be in the game against them because they are very explosive with their attack. So, hey, every single week the formula doesn't change as far as the preparation, and if you continue to have the growth with those young players as we continue through the season, it'll be exciting to see where that ceiling ends up being at the end of the year.
All right, Coach, so thanks so much for sitting down with me for this segment of today's show. We'll dive in a little bit deeper to that game against Findlay coming up later.
Thank you.
It is now time for us to take a quick break and join you all back here shortly. Stay tuned through this commercial break. You're watching the Doug Geiser Show right here on AUTV. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show. I'm currently still joined by head coach Doug Geiser and now standout kicker AJ Rhodes. AJ, thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
So to hop straight into things, this past week you were very impressive, nailing 5 field goals along with a PAT. What led into your consistency into that game against Ohio Dominican?
Yeah, I think it really just boils down to taking each rep one at a time, just focusing on the task at hand, and can't worry about past performances or future kicks. You just got to focus on the one at hand.
And then hopping over to Coach, did you expect to have to use your special teams units that much in that specific contest?
I did not know, but there's a comfort, obviously, knowing that you have a kicker that can hit it from anywhere 25, 27 in. And so offensively, once you get to that point, you got to make sure that you don't do anything to get yourself outside that zone because you already got 3 in the pocket.
And AJ, to dive deeper into your life as a kicker, what has led to you then progressing into this starter role throughout your years here at Ashland?
Yeah. As a freshman, I had a walk-on offer here, so I walked on, and just buying into the program, just working hard, and showing up each day as a freshman, and then coming in sophomore year, took the job over at halftime in week 2. So, and then just with that, like I said, just taking each rep at a time and just focusing on the task at hand.
And you hit a 43-yarder against Ohio Dominican. Is there anything that you had to do leg strength-wise to try to get yourself ready to maximize your distance even further for this year?
Honestly, just working on strength and conditioning. We have a really good program here. So during the winter and spring and even the summer too with summer workouts, just eating a lot more, trying to put on some weight and just pushing weight in the weight room.
And throughout some recent times, kickers have been pretty vocal about the pressures that come with you being in some late game situations, tight situations where you need to make kicks. How do you deal with those specific mental pressures yourself?
Yeah, I think it boils down to just trusting the operation. Each week we get a ton of kicks in practice, and just trusting my snapper and holder that we're gonna operate just how we've done all week in practice.
And so, who exactly is your long snapper and your holder, and how have you guys stayed together as a unit throughout these years?
Yeah, we got in a lot of freshmen this year, and our starting long snapper is Nolan. He's a freshman. He's been an awesome addition to our unit there, and Cook held for me last year for a couple games there towards the end of the season. So this past summer, just getting some reps in with them, starting the summer off early, seeing Nolan there and get some reps in has definitely built the chemistry there in our unit.
So then prior to ODU, you had just attempted 4 field goals throughout the season. How do you hope this game against ODU helps your consistency going forward?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just taking, one rep at a time. So just continuing to, in practice, focus on operation time and build that chemistry.
All right, well, AJ, thanks so much for sitting down with us here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show. I'm currently joined by Coach Andy Tabler, who oversees the team's defensive ends, plus field goal and PAT block units. Coach, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Thanks for having me, Ethan.
So to hop straight into things, through these first 5 games of the season, the defensive line has been really impressive with what they've been able to do. How have they been able to get in the backfield so much?
A lot of it comes into their preparation. I've been really impressed with how much time they're putting in, the amount of extra time on the field they're putting in, working through drills, working through pass rush moves, and especially the amount of time they've got with film study. They're meeting as a group, they're watching it, they're studying, seeing what they see, and trying to collectively find the weaknesses or things that we can maybe take advantage of.
And fortunately for you guys, it's been a mix of underclassmen plus the upperclassmen. How do you make sure that every player is ready to go, even when they're subbed in and out of the game at different times?
A lot of that is the standard that's kind of set by the upperclassmen, and they lead by example, and they show what it's like to be out there and what you need to do to be able to be on the field. So it starts with the upperclassmen setting the standard for our position, and then beyond that, it's finding those little details that we can do. Okay, what can you do a little bit better with a step here, or how you're trying to attack a certain pass set, or the way a guy's trying to block you.
And then staying on the defensive line, this past offseason, what was your hope to then grow that unit coming into this year?
So going back to the spring, we really felt like we needed to develop our underclassmen, knowing that we had guys like Mike Shimmick and Jeff Barnett coming back. So we really tried to work with our underclassmen guys that were going to be sophomores and juniors, and many of them stepped into roles. And Russell Twining jumped into a leadership role that was kind of needed in the summer, and he kind of worked on his craft and how he would pass rush. And then those young guys have really stepped up into the role as the season started.
And taking a look at this next upcoming game against the Findlay Oilers, what does the preparation look like for your defensive line there?
So a lot of that is doing what we've done consistently throughout the year, working on our pass rush, trying maybe to get a step faster in certain things we're doing, try to disrupt the quarterback's timing. And a lot of that comes into the extra time they're doing on the field, and whether you're looking for something as a tendency so that you get an idea that they're going to pass the ball, or maybe it's just getting a film session in and looking for what a lineman does with his hands.
Then jumping over to one of your other responsibilities, the field goal block units have been really good this season. How big of a game changer has it been for them to get their hands on those, and specifically 2 of them against the Tiffin Dragons 2 weeks ago?
We try to look at just ways that we can impact the game, and a few years ago we started talking to them about what an impact 1 block or 2 blocks could end up being, and just trying to change the score a little bit. You change the mentality of the other team and what they do strategy-wise. And the kids have bought into that, and they've worked really hard at that, and they've put the extra effort into it.
And it's not just a one-year thing that the field goal block unit has been good. It's been multiple years on end. So how has that consistent presence remained throughout multiple seasons now?
The kids get really excited about being on field goal block now. We've got kids that in the summertime, Tony Panunzio's working on his rush off the edge in the summertime, and then he's teaching it to other guys that are on the team, new guys that have come in. So it's those guys that have been there and they've seen the impact that's made, and teaching those younger guys how to do that. And then you've done that enough times that those guys believe in what we're able to do. So last year we're playing Findlay, and we're going to try to block the kick to force overtime, and all the guys had the belief in it. They knew it was going to get blocked because they've worked it so much.
Well, from last year facing Findlay to now next week facing Findlay, how big would a win be on the road for you guys?
It's huge for our team right now. If we win, we're still in control of all of our goals that are still ahead of us. So we want to be in control of that. We don't want any help in trying to achieve our goals, so it puts that right out in front of us.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Thanks, Ethan.
When we return back from this next commercial break, we'll wrap up today's show with Coach Geiser. Stay tuned right here for the Doug Geiser Show on AUTV. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show right here on AUTV. Coach, it's time for our final segment of today's show, and before we dive into the schedule and the standings both within the GMAC, let's take a look at the upcoming matchup against the Findlay Oilers. How important would you be for you guys to stay undefeated in GMAC play?
Well, for us, it's wanting to go 1-0 every week, and so we have another opportunity to do that here. It allows us to continue to control our own destiny as far as our goal of what we want to get done in the conference. So it makes it more important here. It makes it even that much more sweet because it is against Findlay, and it is the battle for Ohio.
And who are the standouts that fans should be looking for from either team in that game?
On their offense, it starts with their quarterback, Matthew Reeve. He's playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year. Great addition for him. Can really throw the ball downfield, mobile. He's typical in line with what they've usually had the last number of years. He's got probably the best receiver in the league in Cam Childers and a two-headed monster at running back. So offensively, very powerful, very, very solid offensive line up front. And on defense, everything kind of revolves around their two inside linebackers, Sam Wyrau and Romero Warren. And they have a safety, their overhang safety, Tristan Stokes. And, he does a tremendous job kind of keeping everything in front of him.
And the Eagles and the Oilers, that's been a pretty big rivalry within recent years. Is that the same case coming up on Saturday?
Absolutely. The Ashland-Findlay rivalry is our oldest rivalry. The Hillsdale one was for the traveling trophy. That's 48 games this year. This will be the 52nd game in the rivalry with Findlay this year. So it is the battle for Ohio. That's what we usually call it in Division II, and it'll be pretty exciting again this year.
All right, Coach, now let's take a look at some other games coming up down the stretch here with a look at our schedule. When looking at the start of the season, there's obviously some tough teams in the mix down the road, but mainly these next two road games are one that you guys cannot overlook.
Absolutely, and really we're just seeing the one on October 12th right now against the Oilers. That's got our full attention right now, and we're game planning on that and getting ready to practice for the first time tomorrow.
And then taking a look also within the GMAC standings, the table has started to shake and shift with Ashland and Findlay rising to the top. What are some of the other teams currently on your radar?
Well, Thomas More we expected to be pretty good as well, and you can see they're right up near the top. And then Walsh has been scoring a tremendous amount of points, so very solid year the way it looks for there. And so it's the schedule doesn't get easier after this week.
So you say it's a focus of always going 1-0. How important is it to come out swinging on the road early in that first quarter against the Oilers?
Hey, you got to be prepared to attack right from the first play on this week, and this game will exemplify that no more than another.
Well, thank you, Coach, for sitting down with me here today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
As a reminder, be sure to tune into 88.9 WRDL for exclusive coverage on AU football on the Early Birds Word, Tuesday mornings at 7:30 a.m. I'm Ethan Jenkins saying thank you so much for tuning into the Doug Geiser Show right here on AUTV.